Welcome to my workbench. Today I wanted to show you the use of a Quansheng UV-K5 on digimodes and high bitrate digimodes. So the Quansheng UV-K5 is quite well known today. You can get it for about $20 on AliExpress. You know, it's what you would expect from a Chinese radio, but they're quite well modded and quite known today. So the firmware can be upgraded, and there's so much you can do with those. So the idea here is to see if we can use Module 17 on those radios. And by default, it's a bit hard because those radios have a built-in pre-emphasis and de-emphasis for voice traffic, which is normal, as you would want to amplify some frequencies and attenuate others. However, for digimodes, this is not something you want. So what I did this morning is I measured the frequency response of a UV-K5 using my test set here, which generates and receives AF signals and allows to measure the deviation and the AF amplitude of signals you're transmitting and receiving. So I plotted everything in a graph, which gives you here this red curve in receive and in transmit. So you can clearly see the pre-emphasis and de-emphasis on the transmitter and receiver. So basically here, this is the frequency, so the signal I'm receiving or transmitting, so the frequency of the signal, and then the RX amplitude or the TX deviation to see the linearity of the transmitter. So this is not something you would want for data transmitter. There's also the phase, but I don't have the equipment to measure it right now. So the first mod is reflashing the software with a firmware that was made by MobiLink-D, which has an entire tutorial on this topic. I'll put it down in the description. And this allows you, by just reflashing the transceiver, it allows you to disable the pre-emphasis and de-emphasis which are set by software registers on the transceiver chip. So that gives you the green curve here. So this is already much better, but you can still see this lower part here of the AF signal still being attenuated, as there is a hardware high-pass filter in the radio itself. So that means that you have to crack the radio open and replace a few components to bypass this filter. Again, heavily detailed in MobiLink-D's tutorial. It requires a bit of soldering. I mean, there are some 0603 capacitors and those smaller ones, which I don't remember the reference, so you have to put some capacitors in parallel. It's a bit finicky, but it does the job quite well. Once you do that, you'll end up with this blue curve here, which is something you would want from a Quansheng, from any data transceiver. So if you're doing MMDVM working with POXAC transmitters or M17, you would want a response that is as flat as possible. So that is some very good news. So once I got that, I hooked up Module 17 and started playing with the amplitude to make sure it matches the 4 FSK transitions of an M17 transmission. So here is my ICOM M17 radio. You might have seen this one in previous videos. So it's able to transmit and receive M17 in VHF. So let's go. And this is a Win6 RF. Of course, I have my SDR receiving at the same time, which is not something we would want. And it has some issues locking up to the signal right now. But you see right now it's receiving 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't need 1, 2, 3. So yeah, in reception it works quite well. And to transmit, it should work the same. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is Oscar November 6 Romeo Foxtrot. Yeah, gotta identify yourself, don't you? So yeah, this is some very good news. So the Quansheng does support M17 with those hardware mods. And I believe this could be used also with Micro 17, which is a smaller version that could be directly integrated into the radio. Why not someday? And I think this is something we could also consider regarding the amount of firmware mods that are being done on this radio. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you later.